In this tutorial we are going to create a three-dimensional folding cube. We will learn how to start a freeform project from scratch. Open the dimensions and adjust the baseline width. How to add basic flaps to a line and the various methods you can use to set the height of the flaps. What to do to make a section active, and finally how you can view and fold your design in 3D. If you're ready, let's get started. To begin, we will go to the Box and Display toolbar. Then we are going to click on the 3D box with the plus sign on it to bring up our freeform edit window. In the Property Inspector we are going to click on Dimensions. This will open up the available options that we can set in our project. We want to change our baseline width from 300 mm to 200 mm. Now go over to the Preview pane and right-click on the baseline and select Add Line. Then Add Basic Flap. We can move the mouse above or below the line depending on the direction we want the height of the flap to go. If you look in the right-hand corner of the taskbar, you can see that the height is displayed as we perform this operation, and it changes as we drag the mouse. We want the height to be set at 200 mm. This is a quick and easy method to create a flap, but it's hard to get exactly the right height. Let's use the Undo button on the taskbar to go back to the baseline. Alternatively, we could use the Ctrl-Z shortcut keys. To set a more accurate height, I am going to right-click on the baseline, and this time I'll use the shortcut keys L, F to add a flap to the baseline. Then I'm going to press the period key to bring up the precision input window. Using this method, you can set the exact dimension for the height of the section. Type in 200 mm and click OK. Now we have our main section, which will be the bottom of our cube, exactly 200 by 200. Now we need to add some flaps or sections to the four edges of the bottom, to create the four sides of the cube. To do this, we can click on any one of the four edge lines of the bottom section and use the same process as before. At line, add basic flap. And period. Enter 200 mm and press the Enter key. Now we have created the next flap on the cube. We can do this all the way around the cube to get all four sides if we like. Another method of setting the height is to use the Quick Entry dimensions. In the Property Inspector under Dimensions, go to the box labeled number 1 and type in 200 mm. Now go back over to the cube in the Preview pane, and right-click on the line, then select Add Line, Add Basic Flap, and hold down the 1 key. Now click on the mouse to add the flap with its height set to the number 1 dimension. This method is an easier way to add flaps as well. But there is still a much easier and faster way. Once we have created one flap using one of the previous methods, we can just left-click on the edge line and type the repeat command, Ctrl-R. That will create a new flap just like the last one. Let's do the same thing to add the bottom flap. Now in the Properties Inspector, click on the 3D button in the View menu to bring up the cube in the Preview pane. Hold down the left mouse button and move the cursor around the screen to rotate the unfolded cube. Move the percentage slider back and forth in the folding controls. This rotates the sides of the cube in and out of the closed position so we can see if it is folding correctly. The last thing we might want to do is to add a lid to our cube. Let's return to Construction View. We probably should add the lid to the top section, but none of the edge lines are active. To fix this, we must double-click on the section we want to activate. The section is now a blue-green color, showing that it is the active section. Left-click on the top edge line and use the Ctrl-R shortcut keys to add the lid flap. Let's have a look at our box in the 2D view. In the Properties Inspector View options, Click on the 2D radio button. Zoom in a little bit if needed using the mouse wheel. The 2D view lets us see what the DXF output will look like. The red line represents the cut layer, and the green lines represent the fold layers. Box&Display creates all of the cutting instructions automatically as you create your design. The next step is to illustrate your design using Flexi. In the Property Inspector, click on Send to Flexi. I'll grab our edit window and move it out of the way for now. There are many tutorials on how to use Flexi's tools to illustrate your design. But for this video, I'll just place a rectangle over the unfolded cube and add a gradient texture to it. Bring the edit window back into view. To look at the now illustrated cube in 3D, we need to send it back to the design editor. On the Box&Display toolbar, click on the view icon. The cube is already folded because I left it in that state earlier. We can use the fold slider and the mouse to see it fold open and closed. Spin it around to see the texture on all sides. It looks great. So that concludes this tutorial.